Hey everybody, this is Doomhammer, and we have the 2016 NFL Draft. So the first overall pick is by the Tennessee Titans. However, we have a trade. So the San Diego Chargers decide to move on from Aaron Rodgers, who has requested and demanded a trade this offseason after being with the Chargers his entire career, being drafted to them in 2005. They have made the playoffs every year. Double-digit wins, but early exits in the playoffs. I think he might have made the AFC Championship game once or twice, but frequent losses have led to a distraught and frustrated Aaron Rodgers. In real life, he had won the Super Bowl a few years ago, but in my franchise, he has never even touched or sniffed the Super Bowl. It must have been the Chargers' Phillip Rivers curse. So, the Titans, with the number one overall pick, decide to give up the number one overall pick for Aaron Rodgers. They also give up a third-round pick this year, a first-round pick next year, a second-round pick next year, and then QB Tavares Jackson. Jackson is a been a journeyman quarterback. He's been actually one of the best He's been the best quarterback from the 2006 NFL Draft. He is 33 years old, so we can almost anticipate what this draft pick is going to be. And sure enough, when we look at the Chargers with their first overall pick, they end up taking Jared Goff, quarterback from California. We have the quarterback here. Easy choice, number one overall pick in real life. Ironically, the Titans had the number one overall pick in real life in 2016 and traded that pick to the LA Rams for them to draft Jared Goff. So right here we have the new man for the Chargers. The Tennessee Titans pick up Aaron Rodgers, who will hopefully lead them to top place in the AFC South and maybe a Super Bowl. We shall see. So next up we have the Bengals on the clock and another trade. So this time it's the Bengals swapping the second pick with the fourth overall pick from Chicago. Chicago also gives them their second round pick. And then they also give up a first-round pick next year. So the Bengals move back 2 spots because they have Derek Carr, and they want to stick with Derek Carr. And they're going to have to go with something else here. So the Chicago Bears decide to go with Carson Wentz. So no surprise there. They had Josh Freeman, Sean Mannion, Jeff Toole. Not a great quarterback room. So Carson Wentz is headed to Chicago. Chicago has not had the best run of it with quarterbacks. And so therefore, they're going to try a swing again for Carson Wentz. Next up, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, they have a team they just signed Brock Osweiler in free agencies, and they still have Colt McCoy. He will likely get moved. But when we look at their team, they have a decent O-line. So they have Nate Soldier at left tackle. They acquired him in free agency. Greg Robinson on the other side. So that sort of rules out the need to get a left tackle like Jeremy Tunsil. They do have Chris Long at edge, Alex Okafor. So Joey Bosa could be in play. However, the Jaguars go with Jalen Ramsey, who is considered one of the best defensive players in this draft class. But instead of going with the D-line, they decide to go with cornerback. Because right now they're working with, the best cornerback is 80 overall. That's Brandon Flowers. Then they have Marcus Peters, who's 23 years old. He's entering his third season. So he's rookie year 1. He's going to be a year 2 player on top of that. And so he's 23 years old. And then Phillip Gaines, all of them are 80, 79, and 78. Brandon Flowers is 80 overall, 33 years old. Or excuse me, 30 years old. Man, numbers. Anyway, they decide to bring in Jalen Ramsey. He is going to really shore up that defense. That playmaker in the backfield, third overall pick, Ramsey. Then we're going to go here. Oh, I went backwards. That's why. Anyway, Bengals select Laramie Tunsil. Now, they already have Jadeveon Clowney, Derek Morgan, Gerald McCoy. Their D-line is pretty solid. Now, they have Desmond Trufant and Richard Sherman at cornerback. Sherman coming in from free agency a couple years ago. They got Derek Carr, Devontae Freeman, Golden Tate III. They have Anthony Costanzo at left tackle. So they might go, why would they go with another left tackle there? Anthony Costanzo is a 28-year-old. And I think, let's see, was he on his last year of his contract, I think? No, he had a little bit of time. But we're looking at a 28-year-old, and then getting Laramie Tunsil might be the one that gets them that long-term answer. They don't have to bring Costanzo on for longer. So basically, they can move off of him. Oh, no, he is on his last year. So they have a chance now, instead of giving Anthony Costanzo a star dev 82 overall left tackle, who's 28, he'll be 29 next year. They now have their replacement for him, Laramie Tunsil, who could be their starting left tackle maybe longer, because Tunsil could probably be a career, 10, 12 years in the league as their anchor left tackle. So now we're going to look at the Indianapolis Colts. And with the 5th overall pick, they go with, I keep going backwards, oh my gosh, Joey Bosa. So they signed Drew Brees. They have E.J. Manuel. They definitely need some help at quarterback, as Brees is aging. But there's not really a good quarterback to take this high. Paxton Lynch, not really worth this pick. When we're looking at the Colts, there are a lot of different gaps that they could use some help with. And so they have DeMarcus Lawrence, and they have Leonard Williams, Lewis Nix. But you can't pass on Joey Bosa when you look at his talent. So they can move Leonard Williams to inside defensive tackle, and I think they will do that. So they're going to probably have Joey Bosa, edge from Ohio State, taking this on, and I think he's going to be a good addition for the Indianapolis Colts. Then we got the Baltimore Ravens with the 6th overall pick, and they go with Ezekiel Elliott. So they do have Donald Brown, but he's been kind of a mid running back for so long. They definitely need a quarterback. They have David Fales currently, so that's not great, 57 overall. But they do not take Paxton Lynch this high, and instead of having the quarterback that they prefer, they're going to go with Ezekiel Elliott, the running back they could prefer, the 2nd Ohio State player off the board. Elliott is a dynamic running back, and he is definitely a playmaker this Ravens team desperately needs. Next, we'll go to the Arizona Cardinals. Now, they won the Super Bowl only a few seasons ago, not too long ago. They do have some gaps, though. But what they end up deciding to do is, because they have Daquan Bowers and Datone Jones and Marcel Darius on the D-line, they have a 91 overall Jake Ryan and a Dakota Watson, his 76 overall, Navarro Bowman. They end up deciding to add more depth, and they add Eli Apple, the 3rd Ohio State player off the board. Defensive back, cornerback, Eli Apple. They have Darius Slay, Ronald Darby, and so they add a cornerback here, one of the best in this class, allegedly. And so they end up adding that depth to their defensive back core. You can never have enough defensive backs, linebackers, or D-line, so you have to pick the best one you can get. And the Cardinals go cornerback. Next up, the Panthers with the 8th overall pick, and they go with Miles Jack, the linebacker. So they do have Clay Matthews. They do have Manti Te'o. I think Jack is a will linebacker, and definitely someone that is going to boost this defense. They used to be one of the best defenses in the league. John Fox has removed as head coach, so Roman Pfeiffer is now the new head coach of the Panthers, and a defensive-minded coach trying to bring back that elite defense that the Panthers once were known for, and they do it with Miles Jack. Now we're going to move on to the Atlanta Falcons, and with the 9th pick, they go with DeForest Buckner. They do have Carter Klug and Cliff Averill, and they're 77, 75 overall. So adding someone like DeForest Buckner is definitely somebody that is going to help this defense. They are in a weak division, but anytime you can add defensive players in a weak division, that's going to help them stop those weaker offenses and maybe find a way to put themselves back in the playoff picture. And then we got the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, they're a team that was also trying to trade for Aaron Rodgers. But instead of trading Teddy Bridgewater and first round, this 10th overall pick and future draft picks for Aaron Rodgers, the Titans gave a better deal by giving them the number 1 overall pick, where Jared Goff and a first round next year was better than Teddy Bridgewater a first round this year, and a first round next year. So the Eagles go with, and with their pick, Sheldon Rankins as the defensive tackle. So they have Mario Edwards Jr., Sam Montgomery, Bo Allen on D-line. They definitely needed someone for that interior run-stopping interior lineman, and I think the Eagles, who have had a hard time with their cap space because of Donovan McNabb and these extensive, like Deshaun Jackson and Ted Ginn, Travis Benjamin, expensive wide receivers. They had to get rid of Heath Miller last year because they couldn't afford him. Now Deshaun Jackson left them for the Dolphins. So now they just have to start rebuilding part of this team to become the playoff contender that they once were, making 3 Super Bowls in these 14 years of me playing as the Eagles. Then we got the Washington Commanders, and they own this 11th overall pick, and they go with Shaq Lawson as a edge rusher. There's definitely some gaps here on this team, but they decide to go on the defense. They do have Frosty Rucker, who's been a solid edge for them for many, many years, despite a mid overall, around 75 to 82 overall. He's a 77 currently, but Frosty Rucker is getting a lot older. He is 32 years old, so they definitely need to find a replacement, and so they think Shaq Lawson from Clemson can be that guy. Now, in between the sandwich pick, because the Commanders have the 13th overall pick as well, because they traded back to the Buffalo Bills. But in the mid pick is the Broncos, and they go with Ronnie Stanley at left tackle. So again, I got a lot of decent left tackles and offensive linemen. So when you take an offensive lineman in the draft, it's really trying to get an anchor for the future. And so we have Michael Schofield, a left tackle for the Denver Broncos. He's 25 years old. He's 75 overall. He is already completed 3 years in the league. He's on his 4th year. Let me see. I'm thinking he has 2 years left on that contract. So bringing in Ronnie Stanley is basically going, okay, he's a 75 overall at this point in his career. He has a lot of, he doesn't have much, he's a normal dev. So bringing in somebody like Ronnie Stanley is going to bring them that solid left tackle who could be hidden dev and a bigger future star for them in the future. So the other pick with the Commanders is they go interior line, and they go with Ryan Kelly. So Ryan Kelly, one of the best centers in this draft. They have Laurent. No, they don't even have any centers. They have no center. So with this pick, they are getting a dire need is some interior offensive linemen, and as they work to kind of rebuild some of these pieces on this team so they can be more competitive in what is one of the most competitive divisions in the league. With the 14th pick, we got the New York Giants going with Noah Spence, an edge rusher. They have Ziggy Hood, Kareem Martin. Martin's an 83 overall, Ziggy Hood 77 overall, but they definitely needed some more emphasis on that D line. We got, what is it? Ziggy Hood is 29 years old. Kareem Martin is 24. He made the Pro Bowl last year, but they needed somebody on that other side, on that right side of the line, and that's where they're hoping that Noah Spence can be that guy. Now we go to the New Orleans Saints, picking number 15, and they go with Cody Whitehair, offensive guard. This is another team that they have like Urschel and O'Neal, a 65 and a 61 overall on one side. They do have their like 3rd overall pick, Cam Irving from last year. A guard picked way too high by Pat Shurmur, and I think Reese was the GM. But they decide to go with another guard this year because their line is garbage in the center. So they will likely need a center as well. But they do draft Cody Whitehair, an interior offensive lineman, to try to fix that internal line. They did sign Blaine Gabbert, which is good for them. They've drafted Sammy Watkins and Paul Richardson in the same draft class in 2014. So that was, I think it was 2014. And then, so they have some weapons. They signed Charles Clay as a tight end. But what they really needed there was to get some help on the O-line, and they do so. Then we got the Pittsburgh Steelers. They pick Jalen Smith. So again, this is a team that wants to pride themselves in having a solid defense. They got J.J. Watt, Elvis Dumerville, Sheriff Floyd, Sharif Floyd, Kyle Van Noy, Avery Williamson, Arthur Moats, all linebackers in their 70s. So Jalen Smith is going to give them a heavy-hitting linebacker. He fits that Pittsburgh Steeler mentality. They've got like Dante Whitner as a strong safety. He had injured for the entire season last year, which was a major loss for them. They got Josh Norman, David Jones, signed Chris Houston, all 81 overall cornerbacks. Sharmarko Thomas, who filled in for Dante Whitner at strong safety, is now their new starting free safety, or expected to be their free safety starter. But Jalen Smith, linebacker, is the pick to help this Pittsburgh Steelers defense get back to that solid, tough defense that they are always known for in this league. Then we got the Raiders, who go with Corey Coleman, the first wide receiver off the board. They got Robert Woods, Eddie Royal, Devin Funchess. But what ended up happening is they used to have they had Julio Jones, and Julio Jones left them for the Washington Commanders. So that was a big free agent loss. So they definitely needed to find a playmaker, and Corey Coleman from Baylor was one of the best receivers in this class, at least at the draft time. So we will see if he has a better career in Oakland than he did in Cleveland. But I don't think Oakland and Cleveland are that different, except that he does have Matt Ryan throwing to him. So that could be a perk. Now we got the Green Bay Packers, and with the 18th pick, they go with Paxton Lynch. So this is where they lost Brock Osweiler. They still have Phillip Rivers on their roster, the old man, journeyman quarterback, who's mostly been a backup the past few seasons. And they have Matt McGloin. They were unable to sign Blaine Gabbert. They were trying to get I think they were in the running for Kirk Cousins, but Cousins ended up going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And so Paxton Lynch is going to be the guy potentially moving forward with the Packers. I think he and Rivers will have a QB competition, most likely this year. They've been 9-8 the last two seasons, and they're trying to get over that hump and into the playoffs. We will see if Lynch is the starter or Rivers, but they go with Paxton Lynch, who I doubt is going to have that great of a career because he wasn't really the guy before. So we'll see if his trajectory in my franchise is different than his real life career with Denver. Next up, we have the Chargers picking again. This is now with their pick as opposed to the pick they acquired. And with this pick, they go with Emmanuel Ogbah. He went in the second round to the Cleveland Browns in real life, but they have Zach Moore, who's a 69 overall edge, and Andre Branch, an 83 overall edge. Haloti Nada, a defensive 92 overall DT. So they get one of the better edge rushers. With a team like the Chargers, they want to make sure that their defense is up to par. They got like C.J. Mosley. They've got Janoris Jenkins, Antoine Cason. They got some good defensive players, Jamie Collins Sr., but they needed to get some help on the edge, and they do so with Emmanuel Ogbah. Then we have the Detroit Lions. They go with William Jackson III, a cornerback. They have like Brandon Carr, who's 78 overall. Brandon Dixon, 70. Bennett Jackson, 68. So they definitely needed some support in their defensive backfield and their cornerbacks. Eric Reed, a 90 overall free safety. Jimmy Ward, a 78 strong safety. Not bad, but they definitely need to help their cornerbacks, and William Jackson III is there to help. Next, we have the Kansas City Chiefs, and they go with Leonard Floyd, a linebacker. They've got Bruce Carter from the Browns last year in free agency, 81 overall. They got Telvin Smith, who's a young player there in Will, but their Sam has a 62 overall, Carl Bradford, so they definitely needed some help in their linebacking core, and Leonard Floyd is the 21st overall pick from Georgia to help the Kansas City Chiefs. Next up, we got Dallas, and Dallas is going with left tackle Jack Conklin. So they have Rick Wagner at left tackle, one of the weakest teams to have a left tackle. So they end up going with Jack Conklin from Michigan State. He's had a very long career in the league, a very reliable tackle. I think he's moved to right tackle for most of his career, but he is listed as a left tackle, and that is what the Cowboys need. So they go ahead and get that blindside blocker for Russell Wilson. 49ers, they decide to go with Hunter Henry, the first tight end off the board. Now, they do have Jermaine Gresham, but when we look at all of their needs, they got Jameis Winston, the number 1 overall pick last year, 81 overall. DeMarco Murray, running back, 88. Deion Lewis, 82. Niall Davis, 80. They signed A.J. Green. They traded for Greg Jennings midseason. They have Alshon Jeffrey. Their O-line has Russell Okung at left tackle, Vlad Ducasi right tackle. They may have some help in the middle, like Joe Looney is their weakest one with a 73 overall center. Brian Linder, 73. On defense, they've got Ryan Shazier, Malcolm Smith, Sean Witherspoon, Prince Amukamura, Ashton Yabuti, Gilchrist, all 80s and above. Brandon Merriweather, 82. Everett Brown, who is like one of the defensive player of the year candidates, an 84 overall edge. Cameron Hayward, Broderick Bunkley, Grady Jarrett. They have such a good team. So I figured who's one of the better players available on this board. And although they do have Jermaine Gresham, who is 28 years old, superstar tight end and 82 overall, Hunter Henry is going to give them another tight end option, another receiving option, because their backup tight end is Luke Ingram, who's 54 overall, Daniel Brown, 53 overall, Drake Murphy, 51 overall. So you get Jermaine Gresham and Hunter Henry on the 49ers, giving Jameis Winston another good passing tight end to throw to. Now we got the Cleveland Browns, and they go with Kevin Dodd. You might go, who the hell is that? Well, that's who I thought. Who the hell is that? So I figured that's a great pick for the Browns. So the Browns did sign Quentin Coples, which is great. They have Jerry Hughes, and they have B.J. Raji, the interior run stopper. But they got Kevin Dodd because they lost Darryl Tapp, so they're trying to replace that gap. They get Quentin Coples, and they decide to go with an edge rusher. So he might be a good rotation man between Jerry Hughes and Quentin Coples. Browns doing the Browns thing. I think Dodd played maybe 2 seasons in real life, and then he just kind of filtered out of the league. So we will see if he becomes anything for the Cleveland Browns or if he becomes a bust. Next up, Houston Texans. They go with Will Fuller V, which is a real-life selection for the Texans. They have DeAndre Hopkins and then Allen Hurns. So they go from a 94 overall to a 74 overall. Stephen Hill's a 72 overall, and then it's a 57 Damian Copeland. And other than that, they don't really have many weapons. So they still have Michael Vick. They have Tom Savage and Trevor Siemian. So they have an old quarterback, so quarterback could be in play as well. But they decided to go with Will Fuller because they want to give their quarterback some weapons. Then we got the Minnesota Vikings on the clock, and they decide to go with Darren Lee, a linebacker from Ohio State. A lot of Buckeyes in this draft in this first round. So they got KJ Wright at Sam, Perry Riley Jr. at 75 overall, and they have Sean Porter, Will at 70. And so this is a team that does have some good weapons elsewhere. They got Olivier Vernon, Lamar Houston as edges. They have Sheldon Richardson and Linval Joseph, an 89, 85 overall defensive line. Aqib Talib, Leon Hall, Amari Spivey, all 80 and above. Trey Waynes, who they drafted last year at cornerback. So they were pretty loaded. They had Brandon Cooks, Adam Thielen, Mohamed Sanu, Doug Martin, RG3, Joe Staley on the line with Weston Richburg, an 88 overall center, Andres Pete at right tackle, Rob Gronkowski. So they're loaded. So they're going to go and try to improve their defensive linebacking core with Darren Lee, and we'll see how he pans out with this Minnesota defense. Then you got the Seattle Seahawks, and they go with a cornerback, Vernon Hargraves III from Florida. So Hargraves ends up adding to what is a pretty decent defensive backing core. They got Chris Harris Jr. at 84 overall, Byron Jones 85, DJ Hayden 83. But despite that, they are already a good team. Their edges are good. Their linebacking core is good. They might have to improve on their free safety, but there isn't really a good free safety so far in this draft that was worth taking at 27. So what good teams do, is that when they have a lot of good players, they just draft based off of BPA. And so they decide to go with who they believe is one of the best cornerbacks still on the board, and they add more depth to that defensive backing core. Now we got the Miami Dolphins, and with their 28th pick, they go with Reggie Ragland. So again, linebackers are far and few between. There's very few good ones. So they do have James Laurinaitis. They have Jeremiah Atocho, who's a 70 overall, and Kaluka Maava, who's a 74 overall. And so they add another linebacker to this team who is very competitive. And when we look at their playmakers, it's crazy. They've got Cam Newton, David Johnson at running back, and then Calvin Johnson Jr., Deshaun Jackson, a 99 overall and a 96 overall. A.J. Jenkins, Devin Smith, Tyler Eifert. They're so loaded, and so they're going to go defense here in the draft here just to help their defense kind of add more depth in very important positions. Next up are the Jets. And the Jets decide to go with Jaron Reed, a defensive tackle from Alabama. And so, again, another team that has a lot of talent. They just have to find a way to get over the finish line. And instead of losing in the AFC Championship game, can they find a way to make it into the Super Bowl? So Jaron Reed, defensive tackle, they already have Ndamukong Suh, who's a 96 overall, but then the talent drops immensely to George Uko, who's a 59 overall. So getting Jaron Reed is supposed to be the backup defensive tackle for Suh if they're ever in the nickel or dime package. I don't know if they run the 4-3 or the 3-4, trying to remember their official scheme, but either way, you want to have a good defensive tackle backup. So Ndamukong Suh is being paired with Jaron Reed. Then we get to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They did sign Kirk Cousins, so their quarterback is set for now. And A'Shawn Robinson from Alabama is the pick here. Another defensive tackle. They got Kawan Short and Tyson Alualu at that position currently. And that is Alualu, a superstar. Kawan Short is a superstar. Tyson Alualu is a 29-year-old normal dev. So I figure let's go ahead and get them some more depth on the D line. That could help them, especially in a division that has some good running backs and are known for strong defense. They want to try to keep that same identity. But it's A'Shawn Robinson, the pick here with the 30th overall selection. Then we got the New England Patriots on the clock. And the Patriots are the AFC champions, but lost to the Rams. And they go with Nick Martin at center. Now, Brady was the most sacked quarterback in the league. That's not great. He was sacked like 35 times. It was crazy. So there's a lot of talent on this team. However, center was not one of them. They have like Bowenko and Molk, 66 overall and a 64 overall. So Nick Martin from Notre Dame ends up being the pick, trying to fix that interior offensive line to protect Brady better. Tom Brady is becoming the China doll. He's a 39-year-old, and so he does have more seasons in this league. I'm going to try to give him more seasons like he did in real life, but they're going to have to protect him better than they did. So that's where they are now. Next up, you got the LA Rams, and they won the Super Bowl, and they go with Derrick Henry. So not only do they win the Super Bowl with Andrew Luck, their running back core had Ben Tate and Zach Staley, a 79 overall and a 67 overall. And with all the different talent on this team, they decide to go with who they think is the best playmaker available. And now they're pairing Derrick Henry on a Super Bowl championship team. Absolutely insane, crazy. But he was there, and I thought, you know what? They won the Super Bowl, and they want to go win another one. So they go ahead and get one of the best running backs in the league. We'll see how that pans out. But now what we'll do is the 33rd overall pick, the first draft pick by the Tennessee Titans. Excuse the graphic there. And there it is. It's fixed. And so Taylor Decker, left tackle from Ohio State. They do have Michael Orr, who is the Blindside guy, and if you saw that movie. But he is 30 years old, and he's 8 years in the league. And so I figured, you know what? He's got 2 years left on his contract, but getting it a solid left tackle that can learn from him, as well as the fact that they have a left guard who is Dakota Dozier, who is a 68 overall. So I went, okay, if he's not the left tackle this year, he could be left tackle next year. So trying to give them more depth on the O-line. Now, we're not going to go through every pick, but we are going to go to the next surprising pick, which is Cardale Jones is the next quarterback off the board. He was ranked higher than I thought he was in the draft class that was provided, but I thought he did win the championship for Ohio State. And the Colts, I mentioned, needed a quarterback, and so there he is coming off the board. So there's a lot more surprises to come, but Cardale Jones is going to be behind Drew Brees and E.J. Manuel as a developmental project, most likely. We'll see if he gets a chance to play if they are losing and they decide to move on from Drew Brees. Next up, we have the Buffalo Bills. The Bills have their first pick after trading up last year for Marcus Mariota. And so they decide to go with Michael Thomas with the 45th pick in the overall pick in the draft. And so they have Danny Amendola, their best wide receiver, at 75 overall. That's not good enough. So they need to get a weapon for Marcus Mariota, and they decide to do that with Michael Thomas at wide receiver, another Ohio State player coming off the board. Now, a few trades to go over. I mentioned this in the last video, but Geno Smith is traded to the Ravens for including a 5th-round pick, and the New Orleans Saints are given a 2nd-round pick. And this gives them the quarterback they need for the future, and at least maybe not the future, but at least a bridge quarterback, so they're not dealt with David Fales. We have Braylon Edwards being swapped for a 6th-round pick from Atlanta to Chicago, a veteran receiver who has played in the league a lot longer than he did in real life, so that's great to see. Miami Dolphins trade a 5th-round pick to get Garrett Gilbert. Garrett Gilbert's the 3rd quarterback on the depth chart for the Dolphins, a 71 overall. Washington, who needs a quarterback, decided to trade for him, so Garrett Gilbert will have a chance to compete for that starting job. The New York teams swap quarterbacks because Matt Barkley went 8-9 and has, I think his rookie year, or maybe he sat behind Carson Palmer. Then he went 8-9. Then he sat behind Eli Manning. And instead of having another year with the Giants, John Gruden, who did not draft Matt Barkley, trades him to the Jets. And the Jets get their younger quarterback to be behind Alex Smith. And then the Giants get 2 draft picks, a 6th and a 7th, and a backup quarterback, Ryan Nassib. Nassib actually was with the Giants in real life, so I think the trade worked out well. Then we got Josh Freeman and Colin Kaepernick being swapped, so both quarterbacks need a change of scenery. Freeman did not do well in Chicago, and Kaepernick was just mediocre with the Commanders, so they decided to switch quarterbacks. That way they can be backups on their respective teams. Then the Tennessee Titans, who are trying to get another receiving option for Aaron Rodgers, decide to trade and acquire Devontae Parker. They give up a 4th-round pick, the 97th overall, and a 7th-round pick next year in order to acquire a young rising receiver so that Aaron Rodgers has at least some weapons on that Tennessee Titans #1 overall pick team that definitely needs some talent. Then we got Colt McCoy from Jacksonville, who is replaced by Brock Osweiler in free agency. They trade him to the Detroit Lions to be a backup behind Ryan Tannehill. Maybe we'll challenge him for the starter position. Tannehill was almost let go because they didn't want to give him a lot of money. But then once he was in free agency, the Lions bring Tannehill back, and the Jacksonville Jaguars end up getting a 6th-round pick off of Colt McCoy. So now we're going to go over and break down each team's draft. So we see the Titans going with Decker. They draft a running back, C.J. Persizzi, Zach Sanchez, Chris Moore at wide receiver, and Alex McAllister at edge. Then we got the Cincinnati Bengals. They had the 2nd overall pick, but traded it back. They picked up another 2nd-round pick in a future next year. They go with Laramie Tunsil, Andrew Billings at defensive tackle with that 2nd-round pick. Then the extra pick they picked up, they get Josh Doctson, wide receiver, Kamili Cora, Demarcus Robinson, Malik Collins, who I know as a Browns fan, he did a really good job this past season helping Myles Garrett break the sack record. They got Vernon Adams, a quarterback, and then James Bradbury. Moving on, we've got the 3rd overall pick, which is the Jaguars. They go with Jalen Ramsey, and the next 2 picks are defense, so Robert Nikemdenchi? I don't know, whatever. Robert. They drafted Robert. And then edge, they get Bronson Kafusi, and they draft Dak Prescott with the 3rd pick in the 4th round. So we'll see if he's able to challenge Brock Osweiler and maybe start a few games this season. We'll see. So all of you Dallas Cowboy Prescott fans, we have to see if Prescott can do it here in Jacksonville. Then you got the 5th-round pick there, Rashard Robinson, cornerback, Tajay Sharp, receiver, Harlan Miller, and then it ended with Devondre Campbell, the Sam linebacker, in the 7th round. Chicago traded away a lot of their picks, so they're only stuck with, they got Carson Wentz, the 2nd overall pick. They gave up their 2nd to the Bengals. We got Justin Simmons here, free safety, so great selection there in the 3rd round. Leonte Carew, and then Tyler Matikovic, linebacker there in the 5th round. Then you got the Colts. They go with Joey Bosa and Cardale Jones, first 2 picks. Free safety Von Bell. And then they hit big in the 4th round. So Tyreek Hill, he was like a 4th, 5th round pick in real life. And he goes to the Colts. So the Colts get that stud wide receiver that they've always been looking for. He kind of falls right there into their lap. They've got Randall Cobb, Tyler Lockett, Cordero Patterson, and then a few nobodies. And so adding someone like Tyreek Hill is going to really help Drew Brees this season really take off. So look out for the Colts here. You got AFC South is going to be a lot more competitive this year, I believe. I mean, I say that now. Maybe I'm wrong. Then you got the Baltimore Ravens. So they gave up their 2nd round pick to acquire Peyton Manning, I believe it was, or maybe it was a 4th round pick. No, it was something like that. I forget who, but they gave up their 2nd round pick. And so they got Elliott, they got an edge, Shalik Calhoun, cornerback Mike Hilton, Tyrone Holmes, and then the 7th round, Brandon Doughty. They don't really, they got their quarterback in Geno Smith. They got David Fales, so they're trying Brandon Doughty. Who knows if they're going to stick with Geno Smith? I mean, if he does well with them, great. But we got, Patrick Mahomes, Mitchell Trubisky, Deshaun Watson coming up in next year's draft, and then the Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson type draft coming up in 2 years. So we'll see if they decide to stick with where they're at or if they decide to go with a new quarterback. But this is mostly a defensive draft here in the middle after they get their star running back, Elliott. Cardinals, they go with Eli Apple, and they go with Joe Thuney, offensive guard there in the 2nd round. Nick Vigil, Mike. We got Will Redmond at corner, Willie Henry at defensive tackle, Dean Lowry at edge, Reese Odhiambo at offensive guard, and then a running back, Wendell Smallwood there in the 7th round. Then the Panthers, the 8th pick, they go with Miles Jack, and they go with Connor Cook coming off the board with the pick number 8. So they do have Joe Flacco, but they have a new head coach now. Flacco is 31 years old, 80 overall, star dev. He has, he's had 2 years left on his contract. He had a bigger contract a while ago, but he hasn't won anything. He's just been sort of a consistent starter for them. You could say maybe like Matthew Stafford, where he was good, but he never really made the playoffs or the Super Bowl that often with the Lions. You could say he maybe like a Phillip Rivers, I suppose. So Connor Cook becomes the rookie draft pick there to maybe challenge him for the starting job sometime in the future. Maybe not this year, maybe in the future. In real life, Connor Cook didn't do much. So we'll have to figure that one out. Nick Kwiatkowski at edge at 3rd round. Connor McGovern. He could be a very good, reliable guard for them moving forward in the future. Yet LaRaven Clark, Jonathan Jones, and Cole Toner to finish up the Panthers draft. Then the 9th overall pick was the Falcons. And so they had the 9th pick from the Ravens and the 6th pick from the Ravens. That 2nd round pick must have gone somewhere else. The 2nd round pick went for Geno Smith. That's why, to the Saints. But you got DeForest Buckner. They go with Laquan Treadwell, who was seen as a really top tier wide receiver that draft class. He slips out of the 1st round for me. He should be a normal dev. He wasn't that big of a deal in real life. Kentrell Brothers, Will, Sean Davis, free safety. They do draft Kevin Hogan with the 9th pick in the 4th round. Jarrell Adams with tight end. Glenn Gronkowski at fullback. Tyler Irvin, running back. Jack Allen, center. And Tyvis Powell, strong safety there in the 7th round. Eagles go with Sheldon Rankins and then Carl Joseph. They get one of the best strong safeties in this draft class. Running back Paul Perkins, B.J. Goodson. They do draft Carl Nassib. I know he was a Cleveland Brown in real life, so they have an edge. Wide receiver Sharon Peak, and then Clayton Fejedelum, free safety. He's a 7th round pick, so he's lucky to be drafted. So we'll see if we ever pronounce his name right in the future or ever say his name again. Then we got the Commanders. They had 2 first-round picks, Shaq Lawson and Ryan Kelly. In the 2nd round, they go with Mackenzie Alexander, cornerback. They draft Cody Kessler, another Browns legend there. I know a lot of Browns players because that's my team. Robbie Anderson, a wide receiver there in the 4th round. That's a good mid-round pick for the Commanders. They got Vidal Alexander, Steven Anderson, and Willie Beavers. Denver, they go with Ronnie Stanley in the first round, as you saw. Then Vernon Butler, defensive tackle. Jihad Ward on the defensive line there. Jeremy Cash, strong safety. Gerald Hawkins, Thomas Duarte, and Stephen Weatherly. Bills, who gave up their first round pick, take Michael Thomas with their first selection in the second round. Adolphus Washington, Graham Glasgow, Spencer Drango, Kenny Lawler, and Aaron Wallace. So after Noah Spence, the New York Giants take tight end Austin Hooper, the second tight end off the board. Jason Spriggs there, left tackle. Kenyon Drake at running back in the fourth round. Andrew Adams, Dan Vitale, Travis Freeney, Anthony Brown, and Jason Faneca. Yeah, and if you may notice some of these draft picks, they may alternate depending on the team. That's just because there's some error going on with the Packers. It kept having like the Packers and the Chargers swapping picks in a really, really weird way. But it's just a glitch that I try to fix. So we got the Saints now. Saints go with Cody Whitehair. They end up getting Joshua Perry, linebacker there with the Baltimore Ravens pick. They traded away for, they acquired in the Geno Smith trade. Artie Burns, a cornerback. We got Braxton Miller, a wide receiver. Christian Hackenberg, quarterback there in the fourth round. And then Daniel Lasgow and Devin Lucien at wide receiver in the seventh round. Then you got the Pittsburgh Steelers going with wide receiver there in the second round. Tyler Boyd. I'm not sure he's going to turn into anything, but hey, Pittsburgh needed to take a shot on offense, and they did. Sua Cravens, a safety. Landon Turner at guard. Jordan Howard, a pretty good running back there. He was a pretty solid running back for the Chicago Bears. They get him in the fifth round. Evan Boehm at center, and then Quinton Jefferson in the seventh. Now the Oakland Raiders, they have Corey Coleman, then Kyler Fackrell. They got DeAndre Hall, but they also get Matt Judon. So Judon's a great mid-round pick for them. Again, when they're projected to go somewhere, it doesn't matter how good they were in their real life. I try to draft them where they, within reason. I mean, there are some second-round picks that make it in the first round. There are some first-round picks that, in real life, that ended up dropping to second or third-round picks or even later. So my draft is always, I try to keep it as realistic as possible. And so in this instance, Judon slipped in real life. And he slipped in this draft to the fourth round. They got Ronald Blair III, Kalen Reed, and Avery Young finishing up the Raiders draft pick there. But Judon is definitely the best pick in this class for them. Oh, now I got to go and click it. So Green Bay Packers, they go with Paxton Lynch in the first round, Jonathan Bullard, Christian Westerman, Darryl Worley, Jonathan Williams, Derek Watt, DeAndre Houston Carson, and David Onyemata. Not really a great draft for them overall, but, you know, Green Bay, they try. Then the Chargers, we got Goff and Ogba in the first round. Then for the 32nd pick, again, it's really weird how they did it, but I tried to balance it the best I could, but it was just a lot of errors. Javon Hargrave, Jalen Mills, Pharaoh Cooper, Denver Kirkland, Scooby Wright III, Aziz Chatou, and Kelvin Taylor. Then you got the Detroit Lions. After getting Jackson III, they go with Chris Jones. So a great defensive tackle pick up there in the second round. Joshua Garnett, Charles Tapper, Jatavis Brown, and Trayvon Boykin at quarterback. So they pick up a quarterback position there as they have Tannehill and Colt McCoy. Then you got the Chiefs. They go in with Leonard Floyd. They go with Devontae Booker in the second round. Jermaine Ifedi, Kevin Bird, maybe, I don't know. Tavon Young, David Morgan, and DJ White. Dallas Cowboys get Jack Conklin, Kenny Clark, Kendall Fuller to cornerback there in the third round. Kyle Murphy, Malcolm Mitchell, Jaron Kearse, and Dottie Nicholas there in the seventh round. They got the 49ers going with Henry in the first round, then Sheldon Day. They go Jordan Jenkins with the first pick in the fourth round. Sean Coleman, a left tackle, Eric Murray, free safety, Kayvon Seymour, and then wide receiver, Geronimo Allison, 23rd pick in the seventh round. Then we got Cleveland, an edge there, Kevin Dodd. Then we got Kenneth Dixon, a real-life pick, Rashard Higgins, Brandon Shell, Chiavare, Russell, Anthony Zettel, and then Justin Burris. As you can see, they alternate 24, 23, 24, 23. Really annoyed me, but life is what life is. Then we got the Houston Texans picking number 25. They went with Will Fuller in the first round and Jacoby Brissett there in the second round. They needed a quarterback. They have Michael Vick, who will probably start this year. But if the Texans take a turn for the worst, they do have Jacoby Brissett there as a rookie to maybe be their potential starter for the Houston Texans. Darion Thompson. We had Sebastian Tretola, Max Tjork, Kevin Peterson, and Devon Kajust. Wide receiver there in the 7th round. Then we got 26th overall pick, Darren Lee. We got Sterling Shepard at receiver, Ted Karras, Brandon Allen, Blake Martinez, Mike Thomas, and Victor Ochi. So for the Minnesota fans, this is your team. This is your draft class. 27th pick, Vernon Hargraves. They go with Nick Vannett, a tight end. Not going to be a great pick for them, but hey, kind of high for a tight end there in the 2nd round for someone like him who's not going to be that high overall. But they also have Colby Listenby, Miles Kilbrew, and Daniel Braverman finishing up the Seattle Seahawks draft. 28th, we've got the Miami Dolphins, where they got Reggie Regland. They've got Alex Collins. They got Isaac Simola. They got DJ Reed, Joe Haig, Cyrus Jones, Darius Latham, and Dominique Alexander. So that's the Miami Dolphins draft. Not really anything standing out there. Then we got Jerron Reed for the Jets, Sam Deion Jones, Xavier Howard, KJ Dillon, and Austin Blythe. Only 5 picks there for the Jets. Not bad for the first 2. I mean, Deion Jones probably going to be pretty solid for them. But overall, just a mediocre draft class there. Then we got the Buccaneers. They go with a tight end, Tyler Higbee. There in the 2nd round. They got TJ Green, Jakeem Grant, a wide receiver, good return man, Steven Daniels, Maurice Canady, and Darrell Green, all for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Patriots, after going with Nick Martin, they go Keanu Neal. They go with Joe Schobert, the Cleveland Brown, real-life draft pick. Adam Gotsis, Elandon Roberts, Parker Ehinger. And that finishes their draft. And then the last team to pick was the Rams. They go with Derrick Henry, edge Yannick Ngakoue, Alex Lewis at left tackle, Joe Dahl, Jeff Driscoll, Sean Oakman. Oakman was the guy that had he was a top prospect, and then there's a woman accused him of rape, and then she retracted it. It was a really sad story. The guy was 6'8", a freaking beast, but he ends up going to the Rams. I mean, his overall is not that high. They didn't really give him that much. They didn't really rate him by his talent, as they probably should have, but in real life, he didn't really turn into anything because of all those allegations, and then once he was out, he wasn't ever really able to get back in. You got Ken Crawley there at cornerback to finish up the draft. So there you have it, the 2016 NFL Draft. Now, of course, there's a long video, so if you watch it all, you are a pro. Love you. You're great. But if you notice, a lot of these draft classes, I've had people go oh, that's not a good draft. Well, how many drafts do you hit on every single pick? So when I do this, it's I'm trying to draft realistically. I'm not going to just give one team all the superstars. So a lot of these are normal drafts. I mean, I'm interested to hearing who you think had the best draft. Who do you think had the worst draft? So always interested in your feedback. But yeah, looking forward to getting this next season off and running. So thanks for watching. Like the video if you like this video. Subscribe to the channel if you want to stay in tune with this franchise, as we are going to begin the 15th year of this franchise that I have played every single game as we head into the 2016-2017 NFL season.